Welcome back to another episode of Hot Air with me, Joshua Robert. And this is going to be the shortest intro you've ever heard because today's episode is a full length situation. I am joined by somebody. Should we keep her mystery? No. Her name is Noelle Carney Campbell, and I came across one of her viral reels in which she was at a city council meeting and she was speaking out against a ban on the pride flag. And the way she was talking, her humor, the sarcasm, but also the seriousness of the subject matter, just the way she delivered it, I was like, oh, this bad bitch. I need to know who she is. So, me being me, slid in the DMs, and here we are a week or so later. And I am very, very excited to share this episode. It's so important that we learn from each other, that we find inspiration in one another, and her being an activist and somebody that I immediately was like, okay, I look up to you. Respect. I feel like this episode helped me really see a different side of activism. And if you stick around until the end of the episode, I'm going to play a clip of her viral speech. You are not going to want to miss it. It's badass. That should be the title of the episode. Just badass. All right, let's hit it. All right. So, welcome to Hot Air, and I am so excited. I was just scrolling through your Instagram for like the 500th time before, we sat down here together, and I started getting emotional. Anytime somebody mentions Stonewall, and really just Stonewall, when people say it, I feel like there's so much emotion behind it. So I was watching your reel, the reel that made me reach out to you. And I was just like, you can't start crying yet. You're not even recording the podcast. But welcome,
Not yet.
Noelle.
Thank
No. Thank
you.
you for being here. I slid in your DMs like a few days ago and I was like, I need to know who this woman is. I need to know more about your story. It just what I saw was so powerful. So before we get into all of that good stuff, why don't we learn a little bit about you?
Sure. Well, I'm kind of new to this whole viral thing, but it's been really amazing because a lot of what I do is political advocacy. And so when you get a bigger platform, you're able to really share your message with more people. I work as a teacher in Santa Ana, California, and Santa Ana is in Orange County. It's the lowest income, highest minority.
Okay.
So
Right.
like Orange County is a little bit of a rich bubble, and where I
Mm-hmm.
teach is definitely the poor bubble. And so it's really important for me to advocate for my community, my students. And yeah, I'm a US history teacher, so I'm a Constitution girly. I believe in
What's
democracy.
a constitution?
Something we apparently don't really use anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then also like LGBTQ rights are a huge, important piece to my activism. So
Okay.
I have a gay
Yeah.
straight alliance at my school and all that good stuff.
I love that. So how did you get more involved in the LGBTQ plus side of your activism?
It started really young. Um, I was trying to define like what the moment was for me. And I think so growing up, I had my parents, I had some sets of aunts and uncles, and the one set that I loved so much that embraced me and never questioned like letting me be who I am was my aunties, a lesbian couple.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was like totally normal. Like that was the best example of adult love that I knew, because my parents separated and I respected them. I looked up to them. They were fun. And so as I got older and I started to hear that people didn't think that that was okay, I just like truly couldn't understand why. And I remember so vividly in high school when Prop 8 was on the table for California, legalizing gay marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It was like no question for me. Of course, of course.
Right.
And I remember having a sticker on my binder that was yes on Prop 8. And I was in choir, and most of the boys in choir were Mormon. And they
Oh.
saw my sticker one day, and the next day they all came with stickers that said no. And they would hold up their choir books, and we would kind of like do the choir book against each other. And I'm like, how could you not just want people to be with who they love? Why is it
Right.
that big of a deal? And so, especially now that I work with kids, and I think people who are, homophobic don't think LGBTQ kids exist, they exist. They exist and they really need people that care for them and protect them and provide safety for them because they might not have that at home. Like
Right.
school might be the only safe space for them. So that is everything I do is for the kids. You'll hear me say for the kids, for the kids, for the kids. They're my why.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really important to me that they have a safe space, especially like the community I teach in is predominantly Latinx, Hispanic, and that culture is, coming around actually quite surprisingly. I've learned this more recently, but they have a lot of more conservative views in regards to relationships.
Right.
So their kids, their LGBTQ kids exist and they need to be loved.
Yeah. Wow, it sounds like it did start very early for you with that sticker on your binder and having those
Yeah.
battles in choir. That's so interesting. That's, like, also very brave, which was, like, my next point is, like, when I think about activism or having a sticker on your binder that represents something you believe so strongly about, it gives me instant anxiety because I don't
Hmm.
know that, I have the bravery to stand up there at a podium like you do, and speak. And I actually talked to my therapist about this today because I was like, maybe my activism looks different. Maybe what
Well, look at
my
you, you're doing a
approach. Right.
podcast.
And I mean, in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's easy for me to sit here, with the lights and the camera and the microphone because there's not people to, battle with me. And so that,
Right.
I imagine can be kind of scary. Have you ever felt silenced or like somebody, I'm sure there's people there that have the opposite viewpoint that are trying to kind of combat what you're saying. What does that feel like and what do you do in those circumstances when you're kind of up against someone who doesn't agree with you?
That's constant. That'll never go away. I also want to touch on your anxiety about speaking out. I think a lot of people, their anxiety, they feel like it makes them a bad advocate. If you're not anxious, you probably don't care.
Mhm.
So, like, your anxiety is a sign of like your care towards this cause, right?
Right.
And I think if we don't have it, like, whoa, why aren't we anxious, right?
Mhm.
But no, of course there's dissenters and sometimes in my head they're louder because what they say is so mean. But when we really look at the big picture, sometimes you have to like zoom your lens out. Like the support is always going to be a lot broader. And sometimes too, it really just involves having difficult conversations with people who don't see things the same way as you. And eh, they tend to come around if they respect you as a person. There's teachers who don't feel that we should have, these LGBTQ safeties in school. Well, first of all, it's a California law, so it's not up to them.
Mhm.
But second of all, usually they'll come talk to me about their grievances. And in the end of the conversation, they've either come around a little bit or they at least understand that this is not going to change in their favor.
Right.
So it's difficult. I feel like every day I have a lot of anxiety, specifically every time I touch my phone, because I know I'm either going to get a hate comment on social media, a text from a
Yeah.
principal, a phone call from a whatever. And I know that people want me to be silent because being silent is easier, right?
Yeah.
But it's not okay.
Yeah.
At
And
least not for
it's
me. I would rather I die inside if I don't speak my truth.
yeah. I can see both sides because I used to be very silent. And until, I mean, this journey for me has been very recent and it honestly kind of came out of nowhere. This podcast was intended to be something slightly different. But it never ended up being that at all. There's not even any episodes that are kind of along the line of what I had thought in my mind. So, like, finding my way, to also remain calm. The comments are wild. People are so brave, as we know, when they're behind a phone or a keyboard, but
Crazy.
I can't imagine, like, I've never seen that in person, but I'm sure you see that version, the digital version of hate out there while you're speaking your mind and sharing your
Yeah.
truth and standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. How do you remain calm? Like, are you somebody who has a temper? Because I will go off. That's why maybe I
Oh
don't do
my
this outside.
god. Should I call my husband back in here and tell him what I was saying this morning because I was
Maybe.
losing my mind? No, I definitely like I have to take moments before I even respond or process things because initially I get pretty severe anxiety. And then I get just pissed. I just get
Yeah.
so mad. Like, how do people think this way? Like, a small example, like last week I was doxxed by some MAGA conservatives, and that is so scary, right? Like, they put like my personal information on the internet,
Oh.
they put my school's phone number, and they basically told all their followers to just go ruin my life.
Mhm.
And it freaked me out. I'm not gonna lie, and it's
Yeah.
horrible. But then as I'm going through and blocking every single person, all of them in their bio have like Jesus lover or like some Christian biblical quote. And I'm like, how can you guys say that you're loving and you treat people this way? Because
Right.
you're not loving. So for me, I don't I anyone who leaves a hate comment is immediate block. I actually like I have the time or I try to make the time to check my comments because my students look at my social media and it's really
Right.
important for me that they don't see that kind of language and think that it's appropriate. Um but it's painful. It's really hurtful. I go through phases where I'm like struggling. And just like you're saying where you started your podcast, like you didn't your plan wasn't for it to be what it is right now. My social media, if you go far enough back before, maybe like before the inauguration, like when's the time frame? It was all fun. It was like I would always post content with my students. We were doing silly stuff. We went viral for watching Survivor and doing a like prediction fantasy league. But it's just the world. The world is not in a good place right now, and I can't hide that I have things to say and people that I want to protect. And I'm sure that's probably where your podcast has gone too, because we have to shift with the world vibe. And the
Right.
vibe is rough.
Yeah. It's that time, like, when, because I've thought about speaking up forever, and I'm sure a lot of people have, and, with the No Kings protests, a lot of people went that have never been to protests before, and, there was so many people that were there for the same cause, and it's unfortunate that it takes such a scary time like this to make us rise up and to motivate me personally. It would be great if I was like, "Oh, I was motivated like this last year to, like, stand up," but here we are now, and so, like you said, the anxiety, the fear, that's just passion, and so I think I'm gonna take that with me, and just anytime I start to get a little spooked, it's because I
Yeah.
care, so I dig that,
I
I like
have to
that.
plug the person who taught that to me.
Who is it?
There's a man from the last season of Survivor. His name's Shaheen Davari, but he's a public speaking coach. And he teaches at one of their local community colleges and he does workshops. And I just took the workshop because I'm like, I am doing public speaking all the time. I want to make sure I'm like doing it right. And that was one of the things he said because most of the people in it hadn't really done public speaking
Mhm.
and they were really just focused on like how do I get rid of the nerves? And he was like the nerves are the like play into your nerves.
Yeah.
Use them as your driving force, as your tool because they show that you really care.
Yeah.
Obviously practice and like other things, but that
Yeah.
was like a big turning there because there's times where I'm not nervous and I'm like, "Oh, why am I not nervous right now? Am I doing this too often? Like, am I going to these city council and board meetings too much?"
Spending too much
But
time with these people.
yeah, really.
I love that.
Oh,
Well,
I have to say, I listened to your Pride Flag podcast
uh-huh.
episode, one of your more recent ones.
Yes.
First of all, you should do audiobooks. You have like such a good
Thank you.
speaking voice. But also, I loved that episode so much because most people don't know the history of the Pride Flag. And at the very end, you mentioned a video about a man getting on a subway
Oh, did you see
and
that?
another man sitting across from him and
Mhm.
pulling out his
Mhm.
that is my favorite video. I post it on my Instagram story every week.
I love it. Yeah, I saw it, and then I went and I was like, "Why don't I have a little watch or something?" Like, I've literally never had Pride merch, and
Yeah.
which is crazy at 36 years old. But I'm like, at least now, I'm taking those steps. I'm learning as I go. And the Pride Flag episodes, all the episodes that I'm doing, like, we're not taught queer history in school. So it's
No, we're
kind of
not.
up to us to learn ourselves. And up until a few months ago, I hadn't done the research. I hadn't read much about anything. I knew the names, but I didn't know a lot about them. So what I find really cool is that as I'm learning, I'm sharing it, which is kind of the
You're
point, so that
doing
other people
great.
can hopefully learn before they're 36 like me.
I loved it. I think it was awesome. I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
share it with everyone.
Perfect. And I'll work on an audiobook in the meantime.
Yes.
All right. So I want to talk about the moment that brought me to you, that reel that I saw. I've seen many of your reels, but the one that happened to pop up while I was scrolling through Lord knows what. I went down the rabbit hole as I always do. So you were at a city council meeting, right? In Aliso Viejo. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
And Mike, not Manning, which is what I wrote,
Yeah.
We'll say Munzing, whatever. And
I
so
call
you,
him MAGA Mike.
Mega Mike, we'll call him Mega Mike. And so you were talking to him about the pride flag and the ban on the pride flag. So can you tell me A, how you got to that point, and then elaborate on like what that day was like for you?
Yeah, so I actually don't live in Aliso Viejo. I live in a neighboring city, Irvine. And in Irvine, we started in March doing weekly protests every Sunday at City Hall for basically defending the Constitution and upholding democracy. And so I'm a part of that organization. That's 5051, who also did the No Kings movement. And so I'm really involved in that. And through that, I've met so many people throughout my county who are just looking for people to connect with that they feel hold the same values as them. And so I've met like I have a new friend circle from this beautiful protest community. But one of the people in that circle lives in Aliso Viejo and literally at like 3 o'clock texted me, "Hey, there's a resolution on our city council meeting to ban the pride flag in Aliso Viejo. I'm going. If you want to come, meet me there." And I
Oh
had hung
gosh.
out with this person like once.
Right.
She's in her like 50s, I think. I don't know. I love her. And I was like, I don't know if I can make it, but I'll try. And so I'm like getting off work. I'm thinking of my speech because I'm like, I hate these people. Like
So you had
this is
no
something
speech prepared,
nothing.
obviously,
So
because you
I'm
didn't know. Okay.
driving. Yeah, I'm driving and I'm recording into my phone, like just speaking off the cuff, which I'm usually like, I take 1 or 2 weeks to write a speech and I really prepare it out and I like test it out and da da da. And so I write up the speech. We get there. I read it to her in the parking lot. I hate it. It's horrible. So we go inside, and as I'm sitting there listening to the beginning parts of a city council meeting, those are the worst parts while you're just waiting for public opinion to open. It's like they're doing all these random things. I'm rewriting it on my phone. And so I never practiced it out loud, nothing. But there was something different about this speech for me. So in the past, my speeches that I had done had been at school board meetings where I teach. And so my delivery is a lot different because I have to be professional. And the audience is different, right?
Right.
In this setting, I don't live here and I don't like you for doing this. So I kind of felt like I could be a little bit more of like my outside of work self, a little more
Right.
sassy. And I just think it's so dumb. Like it's a freaking rainbow. What are you doing? And basically, what I had gotten as context for the backstory was the person who proposed it had proposed something similar years before, but the majority of the council was quite liberal. Well, now the majority of the council is conservative. And so
Mhm.
instead of tackling their extreme budget issues, this is what he put on the proposal. And uh, I'm not going to tell you how it ends yet. You'll have to ask me how that night ended. But I knew right when I started my speech because he stared at me the whole time. If you're watching the
Yeah.
video, there's two guys
I
in the
was
video.
watching him majority of the time because I was so curious how he was gonna just
Yeah,
react.
there's 2 guys. One of them, he looks like the guilty one. He isn't looking at me at all. It wasn't him. It was the guy who was staring at me.
Yeah.
And he was so just it made me even more fired up because he was so cocky, like smirking the
Very
whole night while
smug.
people most people that went up and spoke just honestly they begged. They were like, "Please don't do this, please." And I went up there and I was like, "This is a hate crime. Like I'm not begging you for anything. Like, you're a bad person." And he
Yeah.
stared at me. And you know what? He stared at me the rest of the night. I didn't leave till 12:45 AM.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's wild.
But
Okay.
it was
I
kind of just a off the cuff, like, I gotta go and do this.
Yeah, I think what it's funny that you say that that's, like, your sassy version because I was watching it and I was thinking sometimes when people are up there at city council meetings or wherever on a podium speaking their mind, they can get really fired up again because of the passion. There's a lot of cursing and yelling, and it gets kind of it's still an important message, but we kind of lose the message when there's too much aggression behind it. And so me watching it, I was like, okay, like you seem so cool, calm, collected, prepared, well spoken, and it was also funny. Like hearing the people laugh at like, the funny little quips
I
and
was very
sarcasm was
cool and
great.
calm.
Yeah.
I was cool and calm, but
Yeah.
I definitely was, like, the sarcasm was where I'm saying, like, the sassiness, because I would
Yeah.
never talk to, like, my school board
Right.
members like that because, like, I need a job, you know? But, like, with this, it was like I could really dig, Huntington Beach, mega wasteland, like, uh, spending a lot of time thinking about gay people, like,
Yeah.
things like that.
That was good.
Um, and I just yeah, I like comedy. I think I'm a funny person. My husband's like, "You're not funny." I'm like, "You laugh at my jokes, so
Yeah.
shut
As long
up."
as someone's laughing, whatever.
I laugh at my jokes. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that I'm really proud of that speech, but it also is probably the speech I put the least amount of effort
Right.
into,
Isn't
which
that
it's crazy
interesting?
because it's gone absolutely viral. I mean, this was in April, it's July, and I get 100 to 200,000 views a day on it
That's
still,
crazy.
which is
It's wild.
crazy.
And it's
I
like
know.
very timely because, Utah did the ban the pride flag last week. And so, it's probably just going to keep picking up steam as these issues keep arising. Okay, but now I want to know. Okay, I was going to say, so then what happened? How did the
Okay.
night end? But let's go chronologically. What
Okay.
did you feel like the response was like from everyone in the room? Supporters? Did anybody disagree with you? Did you feel like everyone was like, okay, we're on her page?
So most of the people that were there in support of the LGBTQ community. I mean, there were so many speakers. That's one of the reasons why it went till almost 1 in the morning. There were, I know they said the numbers that night, and I have it in another video that I posted. There were like less than a dozen that wanted to ban the pride flag. And when
Mhm.
they spoke, they either were religious or they were like, the only flag is the American flag, you know?
Right.
Um, but there were I recognized a few of the people there because we're all going to the same protest now. We're all going and speaking out, like Huntington Beach's city council, which I haven't been to yet because I have like PTSD. I grew up there. But like we're in this community together. We're starting to get to know each other. Side note, there's a ex NFL player, Chris Cluey. Have you heard of him?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so he went viral like a month or 2 ago in Huntington Beach. They wanted to put a MAGA plaque on the Huntington Beach library, and they did.
Oh
But
God.
he did a speech where he was like, "This is like he's so smart." He did this speech. He's a pretty famous NFL player. After the speech, he said, "And now I'm gonna like do my civil disobedience." And he tried to sit in the chamber basically.
Hmm.
Before he even sat down, they arrested him. And then, like the next day, the high school that has an ex-NFL player as a coach for a football team, they fired him.
Uh-huh.
And so now he's like spent his time doing all this advocacy. He's running for state assembly, which
Wow.
is awesome. But he was at this pride flag ban city council meeting. I posted his video as well, which has gone quite viral. But it was pretty much like all of us were amping each other up. In boardrooms and council meetings, you're supposed to be quiet. You have your allotted time. There was like not enough seats for everybody, so we kind of had like the lobby in the back. And yeah, that was the loud and rowdy, like hoot and hollering
Right.
section. Um, but it was just so ridiculous that we were arguing over a freaking rainbow flag. Like
Yeah.
it was hard to take it seriously and follow the rules for most of the crowd because they're trying to act like they were doing it for some like self-righteous reason for the city to feel like a more inclusive place. Like
Like it
how?
was the
How
most
does
important decision they're gonna make in 2025. Like, come on.
really?
Yeah.
I mean, I think he wants to climb the MAGA ladder and was hoping to go viral, and I went viral instead.
Yeah.
So you're welcome.
Sorry. Sorry about it. That's hilarious. Okay, so then I feel like you need to tell me something. What happened? How did the night evolve and end? And I
Oh
feel
my
like there's
god.
got to be some drama, right?
Okay, so it was insane. I'm not gonna lie. My husband was like, "Why are you not home yet?" And I'm like, "I'm not leaving till this is over. I've been here long enough. I have to stay." And at this point, there was maybe like 20 people left. Most people left after they spoke. But I have to give props to the mayor of Aliso Viejo, Tiffany Ackley, the only woman on the board. She Once public opinion ended, they all kind of started to get to speak, and she just demolished him. She first brought up that this was going to cause severe legal issues. This was like the resolution didn't properly state what a flag is.
Mhm.
So it basically said the only thing you can fly is the American flag. So she was like, "So Del Taco has to take down their flag." And, like, she's just so smart, and he's just not, and he had spelling errors in the resolution, I mean, all sorts of
Oh.
things. But on top of that, she went on to show his Facebook group where he posted things about that night's meeting that were very obviously attacking the LGBTQ community when
Mhm.
he had said the only reason he was doing this was because he wanted it to be a more inclusive place for everyone. And we can't give favoritism to the LGBTQ community. But in his little Facebook group, him and his buddies were saying some really, really horrible things. And she screenshotted them and put them up on the TV for all of us
Wow.
to see. It was badass. I was like, I want to be her when I grow up. Oh my God. She was amazing. There was one other city council member. I think his name is Richard Hurt, young black guy. And he basically said, like, we have so many things we need to cover in the budget. Like, our city is not doing well budget wise. Mike, now that you have your conservative majority, I want you to tell us everything you want so we can get it out of the way and focus on the budget. And him and the other 2 guys, like, played dumb, like, they just don't have the competence
Right.
to run a city. So, in the end, they started panicking about the legality of this resolution, and the city attorney had to rewrite the resolution multiple times, which means we went on multiple breaks, and then basically at the very end, Mike Munzing started to have this little speech panicking moment. They also all said that all night we were like spewing hate at them. It's like, be for real, you guys. Be for real.
Right.
You white men, you're fine.
Yeah. You'll be
Um,
okay.
one of them had like this weird Freudian slip where he basically goes, um, well, if we're gonna put up this flag, then we should put up flags for all other illnesses too.
Oh,
And we were all
hell
like,
no.
the whole
Oh,
room was
no,
like,
no, no, no.
"What?" And then he's like, "No, I mean, like, cancer awareness." And we were like, "Bro." And he's like, "I'm tired. It's 12." We were like, "Dude, that was" anyways,
Oh
yeah, there
god.
I
That's
should have
really
if I would have
terrible.
recorded it, that would have gone viral as well because that was like, wow.
Holy
But
shit.
yeah, in the end, Mike Moonsink went and gave this, like, speech, and he you could just tell he was off, and he ripped it up. And he literally just ripped it and said, "I give up." Ripped
Wow.
it. And everyone started cheering, and I'm not gonna lie, I was not cheering. I was like, "This was your little moment to create some circus, and you think this is cute and sweet and, like, you're the hero right now?
Right.
You are not the hero, you are the hater." I wasn't cheering, I was furious. Everyone else was cheering, and I was like, "Why are we cheering for this guy?"
Like, what a waste of
But
everyone's
yeah,
time and resources, right?
and the craziest thing was because they knew so many people were coming, they hired a lot of, like, police force to come that night, and that cost the city so much money.
Right.
And it's like, what are you doing this for? You don't care about your city at all. If this is
Wow.
I can't wait for the next little thing he proposes because I can't
Because
wait
you
to go
will be
back and
there.
him to see my face again.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, I love that. Yeah, you
He'll
gotta
be
go
voted
wherever
out
he
for
goes.
sure. I know.
We hope so.
Absolutely.
What I find so
And
interesting.
apparently his dad was a pastor, like a really
Mm,
kind, but a
oh, a
really
good one.
kind, sweet,
Okay.
loving pastor. And people are like, your dad would be so ashamed of you. I
Oh,
just
wow.
saw this online somewhere, not confirmed, but yeah, that's what MAGA does to people.
Yeah, it's a dark place that I never wanna be a part of. What I find interesting is, well, A, everyone thinks California is so liberal, and we're kind of not. Um, but also, like, Huntington Beach isn't that far away from me. Like,
Mm-mm.
I don't even know
Where
that
are
these
you?
things. I'm in San Diego.
Okay,
And,
okay.
like, or, you at where was it? Sorry.
I'm in
Elise
Irvine.
Aliso Viejo at that city council
Right.
meeting,
That's
like.
even closer to you.
Right, I don't even know that this is happening. There's so many things in all of these, smaller little subdivisions or cities or towns or whatever
Mhm.
that we are so unaware of. If I hadn't have seen your reel, I would have no idea that any type of flag, pride flag ban was happening in California at all. And like Huntington
Well,
Beach, I
Huntington
had
Beach
no
has already
idea. It
done
was
it.
like mega central. I had no clue.
Huntington Beach is doing, like, full-on book bans. I mean, they are really, really MAGA. Do not go there, it's not safe. Huntington
No.
Beach used to be, like, the city of
Yeah, I
surf.
used to love going there when I first moved to California, and now to know it's not like that, I will not be
I
returning.
know. But they're
Damn.
not considering that that's like, if people don't want to go there, then that's affecting their economy. Like, if all they care about is money
Right.
in their pockets, then why are you making this a place people don't want to be?
Right. Yeah. I love Huntington Beach, but I guess not anymore. Screw you.
I know, right? Screw you,
Ah.
Huntington.
Well, that sounds exhilarating in both good and negative ways. That also sounds very exhausting, but I mean, good for you for just showing up and with a speech that you didn't really have a lot of time to prepare and going viral. That's so dope.
Crazy.
That's
And I
wild.
have to
Love it.
give credit to, like, the local organization in Orange County that is doing the most incredible, in my opinion, LGBTQ work is called Pride at the Pier, and they started because of Huntington, attacking, the pride flag, and they built this huge pride flag. It's like the size of my house, and they threw it over the pier like a big banner drop
Wow.
because the pride flag is banned in Huntington Beach. And so now they've taken this little tiny movement and they've turned it into this big thing. And so every time there's something LGBTQ attack worthy going on in any city in Orange County, they kind of put the word out there and then a lot of us will go because there's school boards that are attacking books. There's school boards that are attacking which when you're attacking books, you are attacking queer history,
Hmm.
black and brown stories. So Pride at the Pier. If anyone's in Orange County and you're listening, follow Pride at the
Right
Pier
at the
for
pier.
all
I love it.
updates and to get involved. Yeah, they're amazing.
Cool. Sweet. Well, I will be following. Okay. You're a teacher, as you said.
I
And
am.
I was curious about because I do have some friends that are teachers, and you kind of have to be mum. You have to like be a little bit silent and keep some of your opinions to yourself. But obviously, you are outspoken, and all people have to do is find you on social media. So, do you ever have like interactions with parents or maybe even students? Because you said like grade 7, 8. Is that the grades that you
Yeah, eighth
teach?
grade. Yeah.
That are, less than warm and friendly? Do parents approach you and be like, "How come you're doing the Straight Gay Alliance? How come you're sharing your points of view?" And if so, how do you kind of navigate through that?
It has been extremely challenging. A little backstory. So in March, our district sent out layoff notices to almost 400 people, which
Mhm.
is an absurd amount of layoffs. And because of my seniority, I received a layoff notice. And I posted on social media about it. And that is the video that has started my, I guess, following. That video has millions and millions and millions of
Right.
views. Um, and that really surprised me. It was What was really interesting about that video is most people thought that I was being laid off because of the Department of Education. And I don't think people truly understand how the systems are so different. You have your federal level, you have your state level, you have your local level. Like it really, people think it's all one big thing. It's not. So
Mhm.
this was a local level issue. Um, and so I spent the next weeks posting updates and going to rallies and getting people to help show support to not lay off teachers. It, and the support was awesome, awesome, but not from my district, who really didn't like that,
Oh,
and who I have currently a retaliation claim against with
uh-huh.
HR. So there were some pretty intense challenges there. I was definitely being silenced by my bosses, which is not allowed. So, I know my First Amendment rights. I also know my educator rights. I just know my rights. I'm a
Right.
Constitution girly, like I said. So I had a lot of challenges there, and I was living in paranoia, but I felt like the cause was more important than my personal discomfort. And so I just kept speaking out. And I had so many teachers reaching out to me, thanking me, asking me questions, asking me for help. And I felt like I became this voice of the layoffs. I was on the news for multiple things. Like it was wild. Now my students are like, my teacher's famous. So
Yeah.
they love it,
They
right?
love it.
Like I really I teaching is my calling and I'm really good at it in the humblest way. I am so good at it. And so the kids love me and I love my students so much. So when I found out I was being laid off, it was devastating for them.
Yeah.
Like they were heartbroken, sobbing, because they love me and I love them too. I was devastated as well. And so through fighting against the layoffs, I earned a lot of respect in the community from the students and the teachers and the parents, a lot of them, because they're worried about the future of their kids' education. Then, when layoffs officially happened, they laid off close to 300 people. And because of my seniority, I was saved. So I'm not being laid off anymore, which is great. But I just found out last week I'm now being displaced, which means they're taking me out of my school site and moving me to a new one,
Right.
which I also think is a retaliation. So I'm fighting
Uh-huh.
it like as hard as I can,
Yeah.
because you build a community where you're at. It's like a home,
Right.
it's like a family. So overall, I would say I have incredible support from students and parents and other staff. There are outliers to that, always, especially when you bring in the LGBTQ element because people are not ready. I don't know why, and I don't know why they care when it actually doesn't affect them, but they're not ready.
Yeah.
And I've only really had one severe issue with a parent, and I think it's their issue, not mine. Other than that, I have parents that are, like, very religious and don't agree, but they love me so much as their kid's teacher, and they know that
Mhm.
I'm not pushing anything on kids. I'm just opening a door Thursdays at lunch for kids who need a safe space. Like,
Right.
and also I have pride flags in my room because I just want kids to know this is what we're gonna do in this class. We're gonna love everyone.
Right.
You might go in another class and not that might not be the case, but in this class, we're not gonna talk bad to each other. We're gonna love each other. That's it. Bottom line. You can't do that, you can't be in this class. And so I think a lot of parents respect that. And if they don't, then their kid should probably be in private school.
Right.
I
Valid
mean, be
point.
for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like the can the cult Christian nationalist types, they hate, first of all, they hate the LGBTQ community, but you know what they hate more? They hate teachers.
Why?
They
Because
hate
they're
us
educating their
because
kids?
they think we're like brainwashing kids. And it's like we're literally just teaching them out of a textbook and then also just teaching them to be nice.
Right.
So I feel like education and civil rights movements, like they're interconnected. Like
Mhm.
they're all the same thing. If we don't have an educated society, we can't fight for causes.
Right.
Every fight, in my opinion, starts in the classroom. So, yeah, they are noisy. They can be really noisy, but the support is way bigger than not.
Right. So how do you feel when people say, like, I was reading something the other day about people basically just saying like, "Oh, get over it. You can get married now," or slavery. It's like, "Oh, that happened so long ago. Get over it." Like I try. I'm not as eloquent as you are when I speak, so I try to be like, "We can't get over it. That's a part of history until everyone's equal." So you being a history teacher, what is your perspective on that when people are like, "Get over it. It happened 100 years ago."
Yeah, no, no, there is no getting over anything. That's not how this works. I think there was a time frame where like we were so afraid to teach history to kids because we didn't want them to feel guilty for something they didn't do. It's not about that. It's about them understanding why things are this way right now because of the past. Like my mom and I drove to San Diego the other day, and the whole drive I taught her about Juneteenth.
Mhm.
And my mom is a liberal woman. Like I was raised by two very liberal teachers, and she didn't know about Juneteenth really. And I was explaining how slavery is still seen today in the way that generational wealth, for example, or just if you haven't watched the documentary 13th, you have to watch it. It's
Mhm.
so great. It talks about how slavery ended, but we put these new systems in place to keep it running, like the
Right.
prison
Yeah.
system
Yeah.
and drugs and whatever. But it just takes being educated. Like I think the fact that we all stopped learning history in high school is crazy because first of all, we all probably had a really bad history teacher and the textbooks were definitely whitewashed.
Uh-huh.
And we should be always continuing our learning. Like everyone should be continuing their learning all the time. Like listening to your podcast is a great way for people to learn more. Reading a book. I don't like to read, but there's audiobooks, so they exist. Watching documentaries, following people that are doing like history talks on social media. I'm always learning. There's things I don't know about, but that helps so much when someone goes, "Oh, get over it. You have what you need now." It's like, no, 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 no. Just because things are better now doesn't mean the oppression doesn't impact where we're at because we'll
Right.
probably never be in our lifetime. We probably won't see things be equal. I don't
Yeah,
think
for
equal
sure.
will ever exist because
Yeah.
it's just not the way. I mean, equitable, I guess, is the goal. Equal will never happen.
Yeah. It's unfortunate and
Yeah.
quite depressing.
It feels like doomsday lately.
It's very, again, talking to my therapist today, he was like, "I don't feel like celebrating the 4th." And I was like, "Me neither." But there's some good things, so I'm gonna choose to focus on those maybe on the 4th. But yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
dark out here in these streets. It's wild. Where do you, other than just being passionate about these causes and your students, like you said, where do you find the strength and the inspiration to keep going? Because it sounds like you are always going and there's always somewhere to be at, somewhere to speak. I can imagine it's exhausting. So when there's times
Yeah.
when you're like, "Oh, I just want to sit at home," but you believe in the cause, like where do you get that strength from, that drive? Or is
It's
it just in you
hard
and it's
to
always been in you?
tell. Yeah, I think it's just a part of who I am. I make a joke that my social justice meter was faster than NASCAR when I was born. Like, I've always been like this. Like, I planned Earth Day protests when I was in middle school, and I protested the school lunch when I was in elementary school, and I ran for student council every
I
year.
love
Like,
this.
I think I just always had this, like, inherent leader quality about me, but more because it's driven behind, like, fighting for what's right. I've always stood up for, like, the little guy, I guess. It just makes me so upset to see people hurt and bullied, and I always wanna make sure people feel safe and seen,
Mhm.
and, like, but also that's a huge burden. Like, I won't lie, I have not been super well lately. Like, as of the past week or so, I've been at a really low low. And sometimes too, it takes just acknowledging that and giving yourself some grace. Like, I'm taking the month of July off
Mhm.
from protesting to refocus myself.
Yeah.
Like, I need to, like, read a book, do a puzzle, get some vitamin D, and not be out. I'm still heavily a part behind the scenes of this movement, and I probably will show up to a few things, but, like, I can't be doing this every single weekend. Right now, I'm not in
Totally.
a place where, like, where it's benefiting me, I guess. That's not really the right way to put it. I need to be the best version of myself to actually help.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna
So,
say is
like,
because we need people like you, and if people like you aren't taking care of themselves, then we won't have it. Just like if you're in a relationship, you can't be a good partner if you're not taking care of yourself and your mental health and making sure that you are
yeah.
at your best.
And being, like, in my small community, I would say I'm a public figure. Like, people see me and they, like, wanna take a picture, and, like, it's so weird. So I'm like, "I'm just a normal person." But, like, when I don't feel good and I have to put on a smile, it makes me, like, resent myself
Yeah.
because I don't wanna be fake. And so I've just decided to, like, stop with, like, some public appearances for right now, but, like, I'm online all the time, like, "Hey, are you going to a school board meeting? Send me your speech, I'll help you edit it." Like, "What can I do to help? Let me get speakers for this protest." Like, I want to still contribute, but right now I need to do it from, like, the safe space of my home
Mhm.
while I better myself, and that's okay too.
Yeah, and
But I don't think I
perhaps
will ever stop. Like, I am
yeah.
this person.
Yeah. Your activism, kind of like how mine maybe is a podcast, maybe yours ebbs and flows. One month you're out there, the face of it, and then other month you're behind the scenes. And as long as you feel like you're being productive and driven and you feel good about what you're doing, then you don't always have to be the face. I would be so exhausted being
It is
the face.
exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and and I think too when you carry the burden of a lot of people on you, you get really, really down when you feel like nothing's improving.
Mhm.
And I think right now, especially, we're not seeing improvements. We're just seeing things continue to plummet and plummet. And it's
Yeah.
like, that doesn't mean we stop, but it just means we got to give ourselves a little bit of space too sometimes. It's hard.
Yeah, it's
It's
really
really hard.
challenging. Like sometimes laying in bed at night and I'm like thinking about like all the terrible things that are happening to the LGBTQ plus community. And I'm like, I wish I could just do something, like one thing. I wish, like, my voice was loud enough. I wish I could change the friggin' world. And it's very heavy for people like yourself and myself that feel very passionate about it. And I'm very like empathetic. I feel all the feels. So I can totally understand. Crowds also drain me. So I don't know how
Mm.
you do the crowds.
Well, there's also this study called empathy fatigue, which it's like
Mhm.
when you're an empathetic person and you find yourself giving empathy a lot, you start to like it's really unhealthy for you.
Oh, I'm gonna have to look into that because
I know.
I'm
I'm
always
looking into it
exhausted and
too.
feeling.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like I'm sure you know the statistic. every for an LGBTQ person to have one person who's a supporter or a safe space for them, it like lowers their suicide risk by like 40% or something.
Yeah.
Like
It's
your
significant.
podcast
It's important.
could be that like impact on someone. Your bracelet, like little things like that I think are so important. So we may
Yeah.
not be doing like big gestures every day, but the little gestures, they make an impact in the small circles that we're in.
Totally. Yeah, that's my hope that like one kid who's 16 years old, even if he's the only person that listens to or he or she or they or them an episode and they're like, "Oh, okay, there's somebody like me," which is what I hope. And okay, we're going to wrap this up because we're both sweaty and emotionally exhausted. But I am
Yes.
curious.
I'm having a great time though, by the
Good,
way.
me too. I love speaking
I'm
to
so
you.
happy to be here.
What advice would you give to people listening that maybe want to be an activist or maybe want to start taking action? Maybe they're nervous like I was about going to the No Kings protest. Is there any advice that you would give people that want to speak up, where they can start, maybe how they can get educated, first steps?
Yeah, I actually think going to protests is a really good first start. I think most of us are probably past the point of like following, people and organizations online. I think most of us probably do that by now because most of our algorithms are all about what's going on in this country. I want mine to get back to cute dog videos, but
Yeah.
yeah, like I think most people by now are following the resources that they feel like are helping them to get information. But I would say what's important next is to actually go to these protests because most of them have organizations there that you can talk to face to face and like sign up for a newsletter or sign up to volunteer, maybe just helping like bring waters. But those places, the organizations have so much actionable things that you can do. Because I think a lot of people feel like, oh man, I don't want to just like go stand with a poster. Like, what is that doing? Well, first of all, it is doing something.
Mhm.
It is showing what we care about and that we're not backing down. But the most important things are the next steps. And a lot of times that's like calling representatives, donating money, especially if like you're a white person with privilege, like, and you have money, like you need to be donating it,
Yeah.
especially right now to communities that are affected by ICE. Like they need money for lawyer fees and for groceries. So, following people that you trust, going to protests, which are really fun, honestly, safe, you're surrounded by good people. And usually, there you can sign up for organizations to get more information on how to like take it a little bit further, sending an email, making a phone call, donating some money.
Right.
Because that's the action that we need
Yeah.
to
Being
do
around people
next.
that are probably believing in your same cause is going to open you up to opportunities that maybe you didn't know so that you can start being more active for those causes. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
honestly, even for introverted people that really want to do something still, you don't have to be like super chatty at a protest. You can wear a mask and just show up. But just being there, you learn because oftentimes there's also speeches and you can learn
Mhm.
a lot from the speeches.
Yeah. And just being an extra body just to show how many people care about that cause is really, really important.
Yeah.
I like to ask my guests, what is giving them hope lately? What
Mm,
keeps us hopeful? Because there is a lot that makes me feel the opposite of hopeful. But maybe when you're feeling down, is there anything that you're like, okay, I'm going to hang on to this for a little bit of hope?
yeah. I think the amount of people that are coming out and showing up, first time protesters, like, is incredible. I mean, April, we had the hands off protest. That was 5.2 million. And last month we had No Kings, and that was 12.1 million.
Wow.
And that doesn't even count. Like, I don't know if you went out in San Diego. I saw they had like 80,000. That was like incredible. But
Hmm.
where I was, what we counted was the people. We didn't even count the cars. And there were like thousands upon thousands of cars just driving by, dropping off waters,
Right.
having flags out the window, playing music, having signs like little kids. And so I think the numbers are a lot higher. But that gives me so much hope to see a lot of people out. Communities are starting to come together that maybe wouldn't have worked together before, which is really
Hmm.
cool because especially because of what's going on with ICE. Um, Maybe the communities that have felt left out are feeling like, wow, wait, all these people are standing up for us too. Like, let's join together. So we're seeing a lot of coming together that we haven't seen before. But really, what gives me hope is the kids. Like, kids are not dumb, first of all. they're so smart and their critical thinking is at an all-time high. They're so curious, but mostly they're really empathetic. And if you asked a kid at a protest, why are you here? You're going to get the best answers of the day because they care, but
Yeah.
also they don't need to talk logistics. They just say straight up what they think. And usually they're right.
Yeah, you should start doing videos like that, like the guy who, like, sits in the park and talks to kids. I don't know if you've ever seen his Instagram and
I
asks them,
love
like,
his stuff.
random questions, and they're so funny. You should if you see kids, you should start doing that.
You know,
"Why are you
my
at this
favorite
protest?"
moment from the No Kings protest, because I helped organize the one in Anaheim and I ran one of the stages. So I was like playing music all day. We had a drag queen. It was so fun. But at one point I was so exhausted. And so I was like, is there any little kid out here who's really good at reading? And this little boy like raises his hand. I'm like, get your butt up here. So this kid comes up on the stage and I'm like, all right, what's your name? I think his name's like Maxim. I'm like, Maxim is gonna read posters. So hold your poster up if you want him to read your poster. Don't read anything that's inappropriate. So he starts reading these posters and he's just firing him off. He's so like, it was just awesome to see. And everyone was cheering and he did it for like maybe 3 to 5 minutes. It was awesome.
Cute.
And then at the end, I said, okay, before you leave, why are you here? And I put the microphone in front of him. He said, because Trump sucks. And I was just like, it's that simple. It's
Yeah,
that simple. These kids see it because they see how he treats people, you know?
yeah,
Like, yeah, it's the hope is the kids. And now we're seeing young people come out a lot more to the protests where they weren't originally in the beginning.
right,
So all of our futures are at risk. Like we have to have hope in each other. And I
totally.
think we're creating that a lot right now in a really dark time.
I agree, and I think that the work that you're doing, hopefully the work I'm doing, and everybody else that is fighting the good fight keeps it up, and I'm very thankful that you agreed to chat with me today and share your story. And where can people find you on the socials?
Okay, so I'm at Miss Noelle always on TikTok and Instagram. And honestly, I try to post fun stuff too. So just
No, your
I
videos are
I
all fun. You have your Chapel Roan song.
yeah, on
That's
Spotify you
fun.
can catch my protest parody Got to Go by Miss Noelle always.
I love it.
And I do have a little quote I want to share because
Yes.
this quote like totally changed me. And I think everyone should think of this when you're wanting to do what you think is right. You don't have to be a superhero to do something super powerful.
Hmm. I like that. Just takes one
I
little
think
step,
that's
one
really
little
important.
action. Yeah, you don't gotta wear a cape.
Mhm.
You don't have to fly.
Even just wearing a rainbow bracelet might be super powerful for a person who needs it.
What a powerful way to end our time together.
It
That
was
well,
so
again, thank
fun.
you. Well, I'm so hot and sweaty, but I feel so like almost like empowered, motivated. So I'm like so excited to keep following your journey and seeing all the fun things. Maybe I'll come up there one day since you're not that far
Ooh.
away. That would be really neat. I definitely need to get or would like to get a little bit more
I have
involved.
to say, my favorite place is Hillcrest, so maybe I'll come
Well,
down to you
you know where to
sometime, go to
find me.
Mo
I
Urban.
live in Hillcrest, so you won't have to go far to
Okay, I'll be
find
there.
me. Okay, well, thank you so
Thanks for having
much.
me.
Thank you. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for, if you made it this far, it's time for me to play Noelle's viral speech at the Aliso Viejo City Council meeting, in which she is speaking out against a pride flag ban.
Flag doesn't make you strong. It doesn't make you a protector of family values. It makes you look insecure, weak, and it makes you look like someone who spends an uncomfortable amount of time thinking about gay people. What is it about the pride flag that gets under your skin so badly? The joy, the inclusivity. But let's not pretend we don't know how this story ends. We've seen it before. Look at Huntington Beach. A city that used to be known for surf culture, now known nationally as Orange County's embarrassing MAGA wasteland. A city so obsessed with performative bigotry that it has become a punchline. That is what happens when you start making policies based on hate instead of actual governance. And that's the future you want for Aliso Viejo, to be the next place people point at and say, oh yeah, that city, the one that's scared of a rainbow. Well, let me remind you, this flag is much bigger than your personal discomfort. It represents a fight. A fight that started at Stonewall, where people risked everything just to exist. A fight that that led the right for LGBTQ people to marry the person they love. And you think you're going to stop that? You think you're going to erase decades of progress with a petty little flag ban? Let's be clear. When you target a group of people for who they are, when you try to erase their presence, that's not policy. That's hate, dude. And when it turns into action, I'm going to call it what it is. It's a hate crime. No, we will not be erased. We will not be pushed backward. The LGBTQ community has fought too hard and come too far to let this fragile MAGA ego undo the progress. You might think we're making a statement. That's right, we are. Our statement is this: we're not going anywhere. History is watching, the world will soon be watching, and the only thing more embarrassing than being afraid of a rainbow is thinking you can erase the people it represents. Thank you.